Hi, I'm Rusty Wallace.
And I'm Johnny Bench.
And we're no strangers to big-time pain.
Which is why we trust Blue Emu's pain relief products.
I use it every day to keep me on the move because winning never gets old.
Blue Emu pain relief products, non-greasy, deep penetrating formula, gets down deep into your muscles and joints to do its magic.
And speaking of magic...
Blue Emu, Maximum Pain Relief, the official pain relief cream of NASCAR.
We are stronger together in the warm air and Gulf breezes, by the sparkling water as the sun slowly sets, where pirates shout ahoy and treasure awaits, where gentle manatees swim past timeless minarets with adventures to discover in historic districts with diversity and charm in our community by the bay to make memories beyond measure when you return, because we are all stronger together, where hope always shines in the hip urban heart of Florida's Gulf Coast beats. We will be ready for you in Tampa Bay, Florida's most resilient destination.
At Medi Weight Loss, your health and wellness is our top priority. We're now offering virtual tools to help keep you safe and on track with your weight loss goals. Focus on your health and lose weight with our individualized medical plans. Call for a free virtual assessment. Medi Weight Loss.
Hi, I'm Rusty Wallace,
And I'm Johnny Bench,
and we're no strangers to big-time pain.
which is why we trust Blue Emu's pain relief products.
I use it every day to keep me on the move because winning never gets old.
Blue Emu pain relief products, non-greasy, deep penetrating formula gets down deep into your muscles and joints to do its magic.
And speaking of magic,
Blue Emu, Maximum Pain Relief, the official pain relief cream of NASCAR.
We are stronger together in the warm air and Gulf breezes, by the sparkling water as the sun slowly sets, where pirates shout ahoy and treasure awaits, where gentle manatees swim past timeless minarets, with adventures to discover in historic districts, with diversity and charm, in our community by the bay, to make memories beyond measure when you return, because we are all stronger together, where hope always shines in the hip urban heart of Florida's Gulf Coast beats. We will be ready for you in Tampa Bay, Florida's most resilient destination.
At Medi Weight Loss, your health and wellness is our top priority. We're now offering virtual tools to help keep you safe and on track with your weight loss goals. Focus on your health and lose weight with our individualized medical plans. Call for a free virtual assessment. Medi Weight Loss.
And welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Live Stream Tampa Bay. It is a beautiful day outside. We are stuck inside with you, as you should be. It's safer at home. My name's Tyler Martinovich, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County, and riding shotgun with me today is my friend Pete Guzzo, who's coming to us remotely as well. Say hi, Pete. Make sure everything
guys,
works.
how's everybody doing out in Tampa Bay and around the country and world? Hope everyone's staying safe. What's up, Tyler?
Fantastic. Doing pretty good, bud.
I'm about 50 yards away from Tyler right now.
Just enough social distancing so
Yeah.
we're legal here.
I can see him, but we have a glass between each other, so we're good.
We have a great lineup for you today. We have everything from creatives to health experts. We have some lawyers coming on, a production accountant. We're hitting as many topics as we can over the next 2 hours. But first, we're joined by writer, director, producer, Matt Porter. How you doing, Matt? Good morning or afternoon.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. So you come to us from a website called Hey Porter, which we'll get to in a little bit. But before we get some questions back and forth here, give me a quick synopsis of who you are, the Wikipedia article.
Yeah, sure. I write, I direct, I produce. Right now I'm producing a radio show and doing some teaching as well. I've been in that business in production for about 26 years. In that process, you learn about creative leadership and what works and what doesn't work. And for the last several years, I've been kind of boiling that down into some little pieces that I put on at heyporter.com.
That's great. And, I was actually looking through your blog and doing some research and prep before this. You came through the last Great Recession, and it was a rocky time for everybody. What are some of the lessons you learned from the last recession that has helped you prepare for this moment in time? And what are some recommendations you can give to people that are trying to get back on their feet or perhaps reinvent themselves and using this opportunity to do something different?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's funny. Great Recession. It didn't feel great at the time. You know, any kind of traumatic stuff. I know this is going to sound kind of like cheesy on its face, but there is opportunity. I really believe that there's opportunity in these trying times. And at the very least, I think it's a chance to stop and reassess what you're doing and why.
Mm-hmm.
Are there some goals that you've had for a long time that you've been putting off? And if so, is this maybe the time to pursue those? It might not be. Might be you just need to keep the wheels turning. But it's a chance to kind of stop and reassess and find out if the actions you're taking are aligned with what you say you want to be doing.
Yeah. And as far as where you're at and how you've been weathering this, what are some of the things that you've been doing to stay creative and energized in a time where I think the normal reaction is just to curl up in a fetal position?
Mm-hmm. I get that. I have been pleased to realize that for my experience, there's been slightly less drinking and slightly more writing than I thought there would be. You know, any kind of opportunity, it's not going to last forever. And that's the motivation for me. This is a weird interlude. How long will it last? I don't know. But while it's here, I want to look around and grab everything that I can. I go back to, you know, at different seasons of life, I travel a lot. And whenever I go to a hotel room, this sounds goofy, but I'll grab the conditioner and the shampoo. I've already paid for it. I'm not stealing anything, but I want to grab every single thing I can while I'm there. And that's the way it's in life too. Right now, we've got maybe a little bit extra time. I want to grab it all up because it's not going to be there again in this same way, probably for a while. So what does that mean to anybody else? I don't know. You've got to figure that out. But for me, I've had a writing project that I've been working on, a book. I have made a lot of progress with that. You just have to be strategic. You've got to stop and make a plan and figure out how you're going to spend your time. Otherwise, it's going to be like money. You just turn around and it's already spent.
Yeah. No, very good points. You know, someone once told me directors direct, producers produce, and writers write. And what I think they meant by that is that you have to treat, no matter what your passion is, as if it is a job, whether you're being employed to do that or not. You know, a great advice someone once gave me is that treat writing as if you're clocking in 9 to 5. And even if you spend all day writing a paragraph, it's still worth it because you're still putting something to a page. What is your advice for maintaining a schedule or a regiment that keeps you in the process of writing without having to wait around for inspiration?
Yeah, waiting around for inspiration, that is a luxury that I don't think any of us have. You know, you've got to find the right project for the right time. I know personally there's times of the day that I'm more creative and high functioning than others, and that's in the morning usually. Mm-hmm. So anything that requires any deep level thinking, I'm going to do that in the morning if at all possible. Meetings, stuff that I can just kind of, you know, that towards the back nine of the day. If there's stuff that I have to do that's kind of rote and doesn't require a lot of mental involvement, emotional involvement, but it's still important, I'll do that kind of like after lunch. It's important. I could put on some music or something and I could just drive through that. So don't look at your to-do list or your to-write list or whatever, just as this monolithic mass. Kind of break it up as according to how it's going to play to your strengths at certain times of the day.
Yeah. So give us a little bit of a taste of what HeyPorter.com is and what are some of the things you're exploring in your writing currently.
So we talk about marketing, we talk about productivity, we talk about creative leadership, but it's all through the lens, or typically through the lens of these surprising, little known stories. So it's kind of like career stuff vis-a-vis kind of pop culture. So for example, I came across this story of Bon Jovi's song "Living on a Prayer." It's like their signature song. They almost didn't put it on the album. So what happened back in the day was they had recorded all these songs, and they decided to play all the songs potentially for the album for like a group of high school kids, their fans. And they didn't like "Living on a Prayer," but the kids just went bananas for it. And so they're like, yeah, we got to put it on the record. They did. It became their signature song. From that, I take, you know, we should listen to our customers. You trust your gut, but also trust the people who are buying your stuff. So there's a lot of stuff on heyporter.com that kind of relates to that, where there's just kind of an applicable takeaway through an unexpected or little known story. So if somebody likes Seth Godin or Tim Ferriss or Malcolm Gladwell kind of stuff, you'll probably dig this.
Yeah, that's great. And I was looking through your blog and your website last couple of days, just in research. And there's some really good tips and just explorations of ideas and where people need to be at. We're in a moment in time where we're looking forward to reopening. It looks like, at least where I'm at in Tampa Bay, we might be opened up as soon as the 23rd, at least to some more social aspects of our lives, how they used to be. Going back to what you were saying about listening to the customer, what is the customer saying right now? I think I've been hearing at least that people are sick and tired of these ads like, we're with you. Okay, we get that. We've seen the same commercial 500 times. What are you hearing from customers now? What do they want to hear from their clients?
Yeah, it's funny. I was really dark place, and I got an email from Checkers Burgers, and they said, we're here for you. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make it one more day. Thank you, Checkers. Thank you. Yeah, we have a pretty finely tuned radar for BS. You know, you're like, I appreciate the sentiment, but why don't you just keep making the burgers and shakes, and I'll see you soon, I'm sure. You know, I think everybody's ready to get back at it. I mean, I know that our relationship with vendors and business owners has kind of changed. We think of them usually in terms of like, I need this, I buy the service from you, I buy this product. I think in this kind of weird time we're in, we suddenly realize, oh my gosh, that's a mom, that's a dad, that's somebody who can't not just sell me that product. That's somebody who's not going to be able to maybe make the mortgage because I'm not buying that product. I think it's brought a lot of humanity to the surface from what used to be perhaps just transactional. I hope it helps us value each other on a deeper level, maybe value people's businesses. I mean, this is what they do. This is what they do when they get up in the morning. They put their lives into this, and I'm looking forward to being able to not just eat dinner somewhere or buy clothes somewhere, but like re-engage that person on that level of supporting their lives, their family, their everything.
Yeah. Well, that's a really positive place to end. I think it's great advice. As we finish up the segment, heyporter.com, but where else can people find you on social media?
At Matthew E. Porter on Twitter. And hope to see you guys there. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate you spending some time with us today. See you. Happy Friday.
See ya.
And we're going back to Pete Guzzo.
Hey, Tyler, just want to say once again, thanks for coming down here. Thanks for staying really far away from us. And we have a great lineup today. Like I said, once again, me and Tyler are just going to have a little banter back and forth. One of the questions I want to ask Tyler, because a lot of us have been talking about it, as I try to hit the exit button so I can get the new video playback, is what can we do from a video production standpoint and a film production standpoint when we're on set and this is leading into our next guest, who is an attorney. What can we do to better prepare ourselves with either waivers, having different cleansers, or whatever we need to do on set to make sure everyone is safe, but also to make sure us as employers and as our contractors are safe from getting COVID-19 as we open back up. And sorry, that was long-winded because I'm trying to get playback going. That was for you.
Oh, okay. We're still trying to figure this out. I can't actually see Pete from where I'm sitting, so we're just trying to call some audibles.
No, my question was, what can we do to better prepare?
Oh, I got you. I was rambling into it as I was thinking the answer to the question.
Gotcha.
We'll get this down. So here's the reality. Gone are the days of when you're gonna have 10, 15 people in a moho out in front of a house. That's not going to happen anymore. You're not going to be able to have large footprints on sets or locations. We're trying to couch this in the idea of pods. So you'll have production element, 10 people or less in one location. You'll have your agency, one location. You'll have HMU someplace else, possibly offsite. But it's the idea of just keeping the social distancing going for the next couple of months. I don't think it's going to change. And as far as indemnification, we'll be talking about this with our next guest. But right now, general liability is not going to cover the transmission of COVID-19 or really any communicable disease or virus going forward. I think that's the standard response from most of the insurance companies. So it's going to be up to producers to come up with language that is both in the best interest of themselves and their crew, but also limits the liability of what could potentially happen on that set to the producers or the workers, whether it's the cast, crew, agency people involved. You're basically going to have to sign a waiver that says, hey, I am going to take responsibility, and if I get sick, that's on me. And it's not a great place to put workers. It's not a great place to put producers, but that's the reality of where we're at. And how we're going to parse that is what's going to be really interesting going forward, just figuring out what that language is and what is still in the best interest of everyone, because we don't want to have someone sign their life away. We still want people to take on the responsibility of being safe, sound, and healthy on sets. Okay. And we have another pre-roll, quick break, and we'll be back in 3 minutes, 4 minutes or less. All right, see you then.
Hey everyone, we're back! Today we're gonna make 3 types of ribs in a 3-part video. First episode, salt and pepper ribs. First we're going to need some ribs, and make sure you give it a good wash to get rid of any old blood and bone fat. Next we are going to soak the ribs in some Chinese wine? Wait, can I have some wine?
The alcohol burns once you cook it.
Oh. Prep time! Onions! Make sure you peel the first layer off before you start chopping. Garlic. Jalapenos. I dare you to eat one, Cloud.
If you get 100 likes, I'll take a bite of one.
Alright, bet. These are the main dry ingredients we will use. Salt, pepper, brown sugar, and then add a bit of spicy bacon base. Using a deep pan or wok, pour a generous amount of oil for deep frying. We recommend using canola, vegetable, or corn oil. Please be very careful. Our deep fry station is outside of the house, and my dad is a trained professional. Time. If your ribs are not completely under the oil, use a ladle and pour some on the areas, or you can cut the ribs into a size that can fit. Once the ribs is golden brown, take it out of the oil. Place it on a resting rack and lightly season it immediately. Now for the toppings. Cook the garlic and sweat the jalapenos and onions.
Welcome back, everybody. We'll be joined here shortly by Chris Placitella, personal injury attorney. We're having a few little technical glitches, as is per usual, but we're working through them, and he should be on here in a second. The segment you just watched was a cooking segment from our friend Chance Chanthelancy and his son Sky. We really hope you enjoyed that. We'll have a couple more of those throughout the program today. But joining us again, across from the other side of the room, is Pete Guzzo. Pete, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. I'm glad to see Chance, who's a longtime friend and also works in the video production industry, doing something that all of us should be doing at this point, which is going out and kind of stretching our horizon. And that's one thing he's doing is, I want to do a cooking show. I have time to do a cooking show during this epidemic. And you know what? He did it, and it looks great. And him and his son are great together. His son, I know Monster, and Tyler does too. So I'm just glad to see a lot of people are doing things that they've always said they want to do, and now they're actually doing them.
Yeah.
So it's like us doing this live stream show, which we've never done before, and we've been doing it for 7 weeks, and it's a little bit of fun and a little bit of a calamity, but you know what? We're pushing out there and doing something different, man.
All right. And with that, we're going to switch it back to me. We're joined now by personal injury attorney Chris Placitella. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Happy Friday. Hopefully you're
Happy Friday to you.
happy and healthy, and everything's going well for you.
Everything is great. Thank you.
That's
very much.
great. So we had you on a couple of weeks ago to talk about where we're at with this whole COVID crisis, and an interesting question that's come up amongst film productions, and I'm sure it's not unique to film. I'm sure there's a lot of people wrestling with this, is how do we protect ourselves as both the employer and the employee from the potential transmission of COVID-19? And what the general theory is out there, at least talking to insurance companies, is that general liability is not going to cover the transmission of COVID-19, and it's questionable whether it ever had covered the transmission of any sort of disease or virus. And people are scrambling now to figure out how to make it safe both for themselves, but also their employees. And at least in film, they're pitching ideas of creating new indemnification clauses that employees or contract hires would potentially have to sign in order to get on set, more or less waiving their right if anything goes wrong and they do catch COVID-19. Is that a terrible idea for an employee to sign? Would that completely prevent them from criminal negligence if the producer or whoever they were working for was just not following general safety or health practices? Or is this a good idea to keep people working? I wanted to know what your take on that might be.
Well, for somebody who lives in this world, we never believe it's a good thing to waive your rights, because you subject yourself to all kinds of exposure and bad conduct. But, I think some of this is not accurate. If you're injured on the job, you have workers' compensation rights. And those rights are usually pretty liberal, even from state to state. So people who are working on the job, as it relates to their employer, should they get sick from being on the job, I think the relative state workers' compensation laws would cover that. The more trying issue, however, is what happens for a first responder, somebody who is working in a hospital, or even somebody in a supermarket. Mm-hmm. If there's negligence on behalf of some other entity that's causing them an injury. But just in terms of pure workers' compensation, I don't see anybody should ever waive that. I'm not even sure state law would allow them to.
Frank, feed just died. Oh, there, you're back.
I'm here.
Yeah, you're good. So to follow off that, I got two questions. One, what is the threshold for criminal liability or negligence on behalf of the employer? I'm gonna let you take that question first.
Well, generally speaking, way back in the 1930s, when you could actually sue your employer in court before a jury, you would have to prove, culpable conduct, that they did something bad. But one of the deals that were made with the insurance industry and the employers way back, many decades ago, is that when you're suing for work in workers' compensation, the threshold is pretty low for what you need to show. Really, the only thing you need to show is you got injured at work. So I don't see that as a major issue. Now, in a lot of states, if you can show where somebody is intentionally hurting you, or where they're keeping information from you on purpose, then you may have rights that go beyond workers' compensation, where you go before a jury and a judge. But generally speaking, that's just not required.
Mm-hmm. And my second question is, are we just waiting for enough court cases to present themselves to where we have a solid precedent as to how to deal with potential COVID cases going forward? And I'm sure it's going to be unique to states. Or is there enough precedent out there already where people should be able to make a reasonable assumption how the courts would rule in either direction, depending on what the case might be?
Right. So there are all kinds of cases. People, I've been giving seminars to lawyers and listened over the course of the last 2 months. And people say, well, COVID-19 litigation, well, there's all kinds of cases. There's a potential case against the cruise lines that some people would argue that they had plenty of notice and did not take the correct steps. And then, thousands of their passengers got sick. So that's one kind of case. Then you have situations, for example, with people in nursing homes or in assisted living facilities. Did the facility take the proper care in isolating that individual, knowing that they were in a high-risk group? Incidental to that is there have already been a number of states that have passed legislation attempting to insulate, people or entities involved in those kind of frontline issues. And then you have things that we get calls on every day. You have businesses that have not been able to operate. And when they go to collect on their insurance, they find out that, maybe my insurance doesn't cover me. But I can't tell you how many businesses I've had conversations with over the last 2 weeks where I say, do you have business interruption insurance? And the business owner says to me, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I said, go back, get your policy, ask your broker for your policy. Let me look at your policy, right? Because you may very well have insurance that takes care of a lot of the issues that you're facing. Now, there are some policies that attempt to have exclusions about viruses and that sprang up after the SARS back in 2006. But those will be litigated issues for a couple of years to come, I would think.
Yeah.
So, it's not a one size fits all, but people really need to ask questions. I guess that's the message. Just don't make assumptions that you're in a bad place and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. And final question as we wrap up the segment. Is there a statute of limitations as far as how long a person can wait to file a personal injury suit against a potential employer?
Yeah, well, generally speaking, in most states, the statute of limitations is 2 years from the date you know that you're injured and the cause. When you're looking to file lawsuits for commercial losses, most states will probably be around 6 years.
Okay.
But I would say if you were injured or a loved one was injured and you believe wrongfully injured, then the statute of limitations that you have to look at is probably 2 years.
Great. Chris,
Generally
we appreciate
speaking.
you sharing some of your knowledge with us. I know these segments go quickly. Anything else you'd like to leave us with before we end the segment?
No, I don't. Nothing else other than, these are tough times. As lawyers, we are not encouraging people to file lawsuits. You know, people are putting their lives on the line. But if you have questions, then you should speak to a lawyer and at least understand what your rights are. Because some people were wrongfully injured. And if you were wrongfully injured, then the law gives you the right to just compensation.
Yeah. Wonderful point to end on. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. Have a safe and healthy weekend and enjoy the rest of your Friday. Appreciate you coming
All right.
on.
Thank you. Thanks you for
Chris.
having me.
Bye-bye. And with that, everybody, we're going to go back to Pete. What's up next for our segment here, buddy?
Frank, what do we got next?
We've got
Heath Foulke.
Heath Foulke.
We have Heath Foulke coming up next.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Going to be very entertaining, very intelligent guy, very witty. I actually look forward to this segment like we always do with all of our guests. Interesting fact is every Thursday around 8 o'clock, we have a ghost here at 211 Meridian Studios. So keep by and we'll let you know what they do on tonight. I'm running like 5 things here. I didn't know you were going to cut to me.
Yeah, you're Ed McMahon, you were not.
Yeah, let's go.
Roll video. All right.
And many more.
It's easy to feel powerless when we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if we pause for a moment and let our eyes adjust, we can discover beauty hiding within the darkness. We find new ways to bring hope, to celebrate, and to connect. We discover that the tools we already have can solve novel challenges. We reimagine how we serve our community and protect our most vulnerable. We learn new meanings to the phrase daily bread and face-to-face and hero. We find the simplest ways to brighten the darkest days. And we discover that the light we're looking for was never at the end of the tunnel. That light, in fact, comes from each of us. So for as long as it takes us to reach the other side, keep looking for the light, because it's always there, just 6 short feet away.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It's another beautiful day in Tampa Bay. Thank you guys for joining us. We are once again joined by Pete, who's I'm waving to right now. Hey, buddy.
How's it going out there?
We'll
Sorry
figure
for that last segment.
It's
Tyler
okay.
cut to me without me knowing I was getting cut to. And
We'll figure out this back and forth
I had
eventually.
nothing to say.
But this segment, we're joined by Heath Foulke from MakeBridges.com. Hey, Heath, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us on a Friday afternoon. For those that don't know you, give us a quick little Wikipedia entry of your background.
Okay, my name is Heath Fogelman. I'm with Bridges right now. History of for my professional experience, I was a teacher right out of college. I got into advertising, copywriting, editing, content marketing, social media marketing, pretty much anything you could do in that field. I've written for everything from brochures to billboards to websites and internet online stuff. So.
All right. And tell us a little about Make Bridges, the app, and what it does.
Yeah. So Make Bridges is it is an app we just launched a couple weeks ago. So we're trying to get the word out and get people to check it out. But what it does is fundamentally different than any other kind of connection platform that you have. Most of those connect you by your similarities, whether similarities of the content you like, the articles you read, the people you know, et cetera, et cetera. Bridges is fundamentally different in that it connects you specifically to people who are different than you. And it connects you into one-on-one conversations. So that gets you out of your social bubble and your echo chamber and gets you one-on-one with someone on the other side of whatever the issue or identity is. So you guys can have a real authentic conversation and kind of build understanding across those divides.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You know, I mean, we go out to a bar or some other social gathering. We mix and mingle and talk with people that, we don't necessarily have the same interests. We're getting to know a person for the first time. But our social media experience these days is so curated and limited in who we actually make contact with. This is a really interesting idea. Where did the idea for this germinate from?
Originally, it was before the 2016 election. My co-founder and I just talking and realizing that there's going to be a whole lot of people after this election that feel angry and unheard, just based on where we were leading up to it. Just increased polarization, that you can't disagree with me, or that makes you wrong or evil or bad or whatever. And people just weren't talking to each other anymore. And we were trying to come up with a way to fix that. And basically fixing it is doing the exact opposite of what our normal channels do in connecting us with people with similarities. If you want to know something about someone who's different than you, have a conversation with them and ask them, and if you want to educate them about your differences from them, same thing, so that, like you said, the best way to have to learn and meet and know somebody is a one-on-one conversation.
Yeah.
So many of those other platforms are like one to many. It's like the guy standing under the table at the party with the lampshade on his head. Like everyone sees him and maybe gives him a like. Nobody really knows him. Nobody really talks to him. There's no real communication. Conversations over in the corners where that happens, and that's what Bridges is all about.
It's a great example. What's some of the feedback you're hearing from people who've tried out the app and are experiencing different people they'd never normally be exposed to?
Yeah, we got some good feedback on just the ease of it. We really, in building it, tried to make it as simple as possible. So you go in and you register and you share about yourself what you want, and those are the topics that then you can connect with other people. And then when you go in, it's like, what do you want to talk about? Pick a topic. Who do you want to talk to? You just scroll through and find someone and you talk to them, and then it's a chat.
And what are some of the topics range from? Is it something where they generate their own topic or keyword, or this sort of a self-selected list they pick from?
Yeah, right now we've got 5 categories that ultimately we're looking to expand because there's so many different ways that people could connect across differences, but we try to hone it down to the really most fundamental things. So you've got race, religion, politics, gender identity, and sexuality. Those are our 5 to start with. Because you figure those are things that fundamentally define who you are and the way you see the world and the way the world sees you.
Yeah.
And those are the ways that we're being pulled apart in so many other places.
Sure. And what's the ultimate goal? What are you hoping to achieve by having people connect this way?
Yeah. I mean, our mission is basically connecting people with differences to foster understanding. So really, if we can just get that, foster understanding across those divides, instead of believing what your social platform tells you or whatever biased media you may be looking at is telling you about that other person, talk to one of those other people and really get to know them, and hopefully talk to several of them and get different points of view from their side of things. But we're really just trying to build understanding, and ultimately we think that's going to build compassion and just a healthier, more civil discourse in America, rehumanizing that other side, whatever it is, rather than the dehumanization.
Yeah. Not to be too reductive, but the internet can be a very rude place, let's say, not necessarily known for patient and understanding communication. Do you find that people have been enjoying the app and connecting are actually socializing in a respectful way, or is it a bunch of screaming back and forth?
Yeah, so I mean, you can have a civil discourse that gets heated. Of course, you can use language sometimes in a heated discussion, and it's not necessarily attacking or whatever. So that stuff's okay. But when you start talking about calling names and attacking and threatening and any of those kinds of activities, we've got a rating system. After you're done with your conversation, you answer 4 quick questions, 5 stars each, and that aggregates up into a community rating. So if there are people on there that are just out that have screaming fights and to troll, they're going to get poor ratings and they're going to get weeded out, because nobody wants to talk to a 1-star or 2-star when they could talk to a 4 or 5-star person that they know is there for the right reason and wants to really help you understand who they are and is interested in understanding who you are.
Yeah. And how is this helping with the political discourse? Do you find that most people are picking political topics just because of this moment in time, or do you see a sort of a diversity of people wanting to talk about a variety of things?
Yeah, I think politics is the biggest one. And I mean, everything is political these days. Whether it's your religion or your race, your gender, like it's all political. So it all kind of ties into that in some ways. But that's obviously where we have the most discord, I think. Mm-hmm. So that's where we're seeing the most discourse in the process.
Yeah. And is there a social media aspect to the app? Can people share their conversations through other social media platforms? Are you recording the conversations to be shared, or is this totally private?
We're not recording anything right now. We want it to be private because that gives you the freedom to say things to that other person that you couldn't say in front of your friends on Facebook, for example, or Twitter, because they jump all over you and all over that person maybe. I think there's a lot of people out there that are curious within their own bubbles, but are scared to go outside of them because of the judgment involved. Yeah. So the whole point is one-on-one. It's just you and them. I think down the line we may get kind of a permission system where if you have a great conversation and you want to show your friends, as long as that's okay with the other person on the other side, you'll be able to do that. But right now there's nothing like that. It's just meant one-on-one for you to have that authentic and open conversation.
Yeah. It seems like a great platform to expand almost like a town hall style idea, because town halls are so fake these days and so curated and moderated as far as who the actual people in attendance are and the questions that get asked. I think you're right. I would assume that people, when they're talking one-on-one with someone without the expectation of having to be judged by the greater social media community, whatever that looks like, they would be more honest in their conversations. And do you find that that's generally what happens?
Yeah, exactly. And they can ask that question, like, for some people, just being curious about someone who is transgender and being open to listening to them, or someone who is gay, or someone who is black, or someone who's a different religion, or whatever the case is. That's a no-no, like, why would you even talk to those people, Yeah. Well, you talk to them to get to know them and understand them and discover your shared humanity, which I expect that most conversations are going to end, not necessarily with anyone changing their mind, but with an understanding across the divide that they're so much more alike than they are different.
Yeah. And, as far as COVID-19 goes and where we're at, was it always planned to launch the week in the month that you did, or was this just sort of I don't want to say fortuitous circumstance, because no one wants this to be happening, but it seems like this is a perfect time to have an app like this when I'm, socially distancing and I need that engagement, and this is providing that opportunity.
People have the time like they never have before. Yeah. No, it wasn't planned. We were hoping to get it out a little bit earlier than we did, only because we wanted to capture as much of the election year. That was our goal, is to get it out as soon as possible in this year, just knowing that the political discourse is going to be out of control, right? Yeah. So then here's the place where you can go to bridge those divides, and then expand out from that. So yeah, it was kind of planned and kind of wasn't, and certainly we didn't plan anything on COVID, but hopefully people will take advantage of some of the time and need and desire to connect to do it on Bridges.
And speaking of taking advantage, as we're closing out the segment here, where can people get the app? Where can they learn more about what you guys are all about? Where should they visit?
Easiest place is makebridges.com. That's our home site. It's got a little bit of information about us, and then it's got links to the apps on both platforms, the Apple and the Android platform, so they can easily click over and download whichever version they need.
Okay. Matt, we really appreciate you reaching out to us and spending some time on a Friday. I hope you and your family and everyone you work with stays healthy and happy. I'm going to pitch it to Pete real quick. I think he might have a final question before we leave.
No, I don't have a final
Okay.
question. No, I was just about to announce who's up next.
All right. Well, Pete, why don't you do that?
Guys, we're very lucky to have Lisa Jamison back on next. She's going to go over some in-house fitness training. I know Tyler, you probably saw downstairs. I'm training with everything from sandbags to pipes to water coolers and actual coolers to sit down on just to figure out how to just get our exercise until the gyms come. So she'll be up next, man, and I look forward to it.
All right. And with that, thanks again, Matt, for joining us. And for everyone watching, let's take a second to watch the next whatever commercial we have running. I'm not sure what it's going to be. You'll find out just as I do. Everyone else, tune in after the break. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks, Matt.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I want you to get up right now. Get up, go to your windows, open them, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Things have got to change.
How many stations does this go
You've
out
got to
live?
get mad.
67.
You've got to say,
I know it goes to Louisville and Atlanta.
I'm not going to take this anymore. Then we'll figure out what to do about the depression and the inflation and the oil crisis. But first, get up out of your chairs, open the window, stick your head out and yell, and say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Who are you talking to, Herb?
CGG, Atlanta.
Are they yelling in Atlanta, Herb?
Are they yelling in Atlanta, Ted? But first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I am as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
They're yelling in Baton Rouge.
Get up out of your chair.
Son of a bitch! We struck the mother lode!
Stick your head out of the window, open it, then stick your head out and keep yelling and yell, I'm as mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. Just get up from your chairs right now. Go to
Where
the
you
window.
going? I want to see if anybody's
Just go to the
yelling.
window, open it, and stick your head out and yell and keep yelling. I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore.
I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take it anymore! I'm mad as hell and I'm not gonna take it anymore!
I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take it anymore!
I'm mad as hell and I'm not gonna
take it anymore!
I'm mad as hell! I'm mad as hell!
And welcome back, everybody. This segment, we're joined by Lisa Jamison from Lift Performance Enhancement. Lisa's joined us a couple times now. How you doing, Lisa? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Good to see you.
I'm glad to see you. I think last time we joined, you did a little bit of a workout with some resistance bands, and I was so impressed. I went home and actually bought resistance bands off of your website recommendation. So I've been working out every day. So
wonderful.
You've affected someone's life.
You worked on those push-ups, though. I think you started with some glorious push-ups.
If I did, I embarrassed myself. I don't know if I could do one. But it's been a joy working out, getting something a little more physical in my daily routine. You just don't realize just how sedentary you become until you're trapped at home for weeks. Even little things like getting up and going to the water cooler or going to the copier, that's little bits of exercise and breakups to your day I just don't have anymore. So it's been interesting. So here we are, Friday. We're looking towards opening up slowly. I'm hearing Hillsborough might be relaxing some of their restrictions as early as the 23rd, getting back to normal. What are some things that people should be thinking about as we reopen? Maybe some workout routines or some mindfulness that they found the opportunity time-wise to take advantage of during this time. How do they continue that going when they go back to the so-called rat race back in their office?
Yeah, it's interesting. I know for myself, I was told as far as my massage worlds go, I was allowed to go back to work. And after one day, they emailed us and said that, it's wrong. You can't go back. And I'm not so sure I'm on anymore because the screen's crazy. I'm just going to keep talking until somebody tells me otherwise. But
yeah.
I was told I could go back and then was told I couldn't. So there's this piece of how's this actually working for us? And there's, with all the mindfulness, so to speak, work that I do, I was amazed at how much that really kind of set me back a little bit. Clients coming in, having to wear masks. I'm in a medical building, so they have to be masked all the time when they come into the building. And just, hearing the few people that I did see, listening to them speak about their experiences about going out. And a lot of people didn't have very much good to say about it. We were supposed to go out and practice social distancing, and people just really weren't doing that. So they went to take a walk someplace, and there was 100 more people than usual. So I found that this week was actually pretty stressful for people. People are definitely on overload.
Yeah. I completely agree. I was looking at the recommendations for my own office that's opening up here, not this coming Monday, but the following. It's things like you might have to wear gloves at your desk. You have to have a mask all the time. And in the back of my head, I was like, how protected am I really in an office that's open air with really no cubicles or confined spaces? So I'm just, within whatever distance I am of all the other employees. And I didn't mean it to start affecting my thought process, but I started like, I don't know if I actually want to go back yet. So it's a lot of stress to really put yourself in that situation.
It's a lot of stress. And, we say it's nice, we want to get back to normal, and there's really, at this point, there's going to be nothing normal about it. And, and people keep talking, well, do we really want to go back to normal? That's kind of what got us in this pickle in the first place. So there's a lot of brain stuff happening, and it's, and people are just kind of mentally taxed. They're cognitively taxed. They're intellectually taxed, and that is exhausting to your system. And we've talked in the past about how these moments of quieting your mind, and is there a way to do that? I do some work with a psychotherapist. I'm not a psychotherapist, but we do joint sessions. It's a treatment protocol called Neuralease, and somebody local wrote the protocol, and we're getting a lot of calls for that. A lot of PTSD, a lot of traumatic experiences people have been triggered, so we're getting a lot of calls for that. And we were talking about how do we keep people out of this this emergency mode where we have to get them back right away because they are at their psycho-emotional breaking point.
Yeah.
And the strategies for getting people to be able to, in a non-therapeutic section, in a non-therapeutic way, how do we get people to quiet their minds so they are not overstressing? And people everybody talked about being tired this week, and I'm like, you're not just tired, you're reaching that point of exhaustion for whatever that means on your particular body.
No, it's so true. I was thinking, I've never done less and I've never done more than over the course of this quarantine. And what I mean by that is that it doesn't seem like there's long stretches of like, what do I do with my day? And then there is that bleed of when work and play should have normally had a divider. And it doesn't happen anymore. It seems like clients are calling me at 7, 8 p.m. because they don't have those boundaries anymore, or they're calling me on the weekends. And it just seems like I'm always being intruded upon.
Right.
I just don't have that quiet time. And I've been talking to a lot of people, and I find that's the case with a lot of people. Is that been your reality as well with people you're talking to?
My reality is somebody who, like, I think we talked about it from the very first week. I mean, I have these little, like, breakout sessions, for lack of a better term. They're check-ins, they're timeouts, but I do Monday through Friday. I go live from 9 to 9:15 and 7 to 7:15, 7:20. One is that just very calming breath work in the morning, and then some relaxing movement or yoga posture in the evening. And those are 2 check-ins of 15 minutes, and people don't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
And the God's honest truth is, people are calling you at odd hours because their schedule has changed, and they're calling you when it's convenient for them. And we can always turn off our phone. We can always put our phone down. So we all have the right to do that. There's this notion that we can't. And if the head's always going, that frontal lobe activity of your brain's always going because you are scared, right? How am I going to provide for my family? How am I going to work differently? What if normal doesn't come back?
Yeah.
Right? So we're still all plotting and planning 24/7. Or a good 18 hours a day anyway.
Yeah. It's really become almost like this siege mentality where we're just constantly oppressed by all these outside forces that we don't necessarily have control over. And I wonder how important it's going to be once we do sort of get back to some form of normalcy, is not only to retrain ourselves to respect our own boundaries and our needs, but also trying to communicate that to our clients that, hey, we're not in that same space anymore. It's not appropriate to call me at these times. I have a weekend, you have a weekend, whatever that might look like.
Right. Well, I've been stressing for people for years that just because your phone rings doesn't mean you have to answer.
Yeah.
I mean, it could get as easy as that. And, and my big takeaway on that is most people don't try to get control of their health until they've reached a crisis moment, right? Most type A people don't try to get control of their health until they're institutionalized somehow, right? You're lying in a hospital bed. You've kind of, there's been this portion of your health that's cracked. And so it doesn't seem important until there's a crisis. And it could be a family member has a health crisis and you see your own gene pool kind of flowing in front of you. So, what are they? I have the benefit of working in a very therapeutic part of my day, and then a very teaching people to do this before they need to be thrown into therapy. What are the ways that you can take help for that? And for me, the easiest part is breathing. There's ways, traditional yoga ways of breathing. I specialize in a form of breathing that's not an old yogic tradition ways, but is used a lot in therapy. For that very way, it physiologically keeps the front of your brain from doing a lot of the work. So it does quiet your mind. Now, I can sing its benefits all day, but if people don't want to check out for 45 minutes, or once you teach people how to do it, you can say, you can do this for 8 or 10 minutes. But the process that I go through, I have hour-long sessions of it, 2-hour-long sessions of it, because it's that enjoyable once people get in, and it goes pretty quickly. But they find that not only was I in this altered state where my brain stopped talking to me, but it was actually, I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about who I really want to be when I get finished with this.
There's the old song lyric, working for the weekend, and it really seems like that's the wrong mentality to have. You really need to be looking at day to day and how you can separate your day and find time to relax within that day. If you're working 5 days a week, from sun up to sundown, and your only respite is whatever your weekend might look like, that's got to be incredibly mentally draining. And I think it's something we probably all need to work on.
Yeah. Well, and we talked a little bit about it last week, but you only have one body. So if your intellectual body, if your cognitive body, if your emotional body, if one of those is taxed and is drained, it's still one body that's getting exhausted. So people think, I'm not exhausted, I didn't really work that hard. If mentally you worked hard, I've come up working in sports, and the hardest season for me was winter time, because I have to sit through lots of hockey games that were historically up north very cold.
Yeah.
Being cold is exhausting to your body, right? Energetically it is. And so then you're waiting for somebody to get hit with a hockey stick in the wrong way and injured. So there's there's a lot of things that are draining on your body as a whole, and we just think, I'm sitting in a chair, how bad could this be? It could be really bad.
Yeah. Well, with that, Lisa, we're coming to the end of our segment. For those that haven't tuned in previously, where can people find you, Guy?
I am at liftperformanceenhancement.com. My office is in South Tampa. I'm doing a lot of work virtually, including the breath work, some, with the bands and stuff. I've been doing a lot of training right online, and it seems to be able to work pretty well. So you can find me on my website, social media, Lisa Lift.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us again. I hope you have a happy and healthy Friday, whatever that looks like to you, and enjoy your weekend. And we'll be back after a quick break. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, I'm Rusty Wallace.
And I'm Johnny Bench.
And we're no strangers to big-time pain.
Which is why we trust Blue Emu's pain relief products.
I use it every day to keep me on the move because winning never gets old.
Blue Emu pain relief products, non-greasy, deep penetrating formula, gets down deep into your muscles and joints to do its magic.
And speaking of magic,
Blue Emu, maximum pain relief, the official pain relief cream of NASCAR.
We are stronger together in the warm air and Gulf breezes, by the sparkling water as the sun slowly sets, where pirates shout ahoy and treasure awaits, where gentle manatees swim past timeless minarets, with adventures to discover in historic districts, with diversity and charm, in our community by the bay, to make memories beyond measure when you return, because we are all stronger together, where hope always shines in the hip urban heart of Florida's Gulf Coast beats. We will be ready for you in Tampa Bay, Florida's most resilient destination.
At Medi Weight Loss, your health and wellness is our top priority. We're now offering virtual tools to help keep you safe and on track with your weight loss goals. Focus on your health and lose weight with our individualized medical plans. Call for a free virtual assessment. Medi Weight Loss.
Welcome back, everybody, to another segment. This time we're joined by Maria Matlock from the Humane Society. Hey, Maria, how are you? I'm doing great, and you're doing better than me. You've got a little kitten in your hands.
Yes, I do. I have a little guy here. If you didn't know, it's kitten season, so we have tons of kitties here at our shelter, and this kitty is actually waiting to go into a foster home just because he's too little to be adopted. right now.
Oh, well, it's adorable nonetheless. So tell me about what you guys are doing right now. How's your inventory? Is there plenty of animals that need adopting?
So we are doing very well throughout this whole COVID-19 pandemic. We've remained open, fully functional, and we just changed some of our policies as far as, you know, what we're allowing people to do. We're regulating the amount of people that come into our building. We're taking everyone's temperature. Everyone's required to wear a mask. That everybody, when they are waiting in line, they're waiting 6 feet apart. So we've taken precautions on our side, but we are extremely lucky. We are really, really, really busy. We actually have people literally on our website 24/7, and they'll come and they'll sleep over to wait in line to get one of our animals. So we are just overwhelmed with the support of people coming out to adopt during this time.
Yeah.
As far as supporting the animals available, it kind of just depends on the day. But like I mentioned, it is kitten season, so within the next weeks, we'll have tons of kittens. If you've been looking for a kitten, now is the perfect time.
Yeah. And what are some of the questions that you're asking people when they come in to adopt? What makes a good potential adoptive family? You know, what kind of environments are you looking to help place animals in?
It varies from person to person and pet to pet. We actually require that all of our adopters, before they adopt, fill out a survey, and we'll take a look at the survey and make sure that their home and their family is a good fit for that particular animal. So unfortunately, animals, we don't know really where they came from, especially if they're turned in as strays. So we're not familiar, you know, if they're particularly kids, or if you're adopting a dog, if they're good with other dogs and cats. But we do the best that we can to assess their behavior to match them up with the perfect adopter. So again, it kind of just all depends on the time that you have, the space that you have, and if you're, you know, a family with little kids and, you know, you need to be a little bit more careful with the animal you adopt, or you're a single person and you don't have a ton of time, puppy may not be the, you might want a cat or one of our awesome pocket pets. So it just truly, it all depends.
Sure. And for those that might be looking at the cute kitten in your hands and thinking, I think my family could use a kitten, do the kittens or the puppies, do they come with their shots, their vaccines, everything in place?
Yes, so the great thing about all of our animals, they all come microchipped with all their shots, all their vaccines, and they'll also come altered. So we're saving a ton of money on vet bills there. If you do choose to adopt one of our shelter pets versus, you know, get one from a breeder or go to a pet store.
Yeah. And for those older dogs, do you spay and neuter the dogs before they leave, or is that an option?
Of course. It's our mission to make sure, you know, that we're controlling the animal population to prevent more homeless animals. So all of our animals come altered, spayed, neutered.
Great. And what's the average price for an adoption, if there is one?
Again, that varies as well. You can adopt a, let's say, cat over 3 years old for $15, or a puppy $225. So it just all depends on the animal and their age.
Got it. And you mentioned people checking in on the website and seeing an animal they fall in love with and spending the night. How often do you update your website, and is there a way to reserve an animal that you might see online?
So our website is actually updated in real time as animals are adopted and being placed up for adoption. That's an awesome thing about our site. What we recommend to do is give the website a check around 8:30 every night if you're looking for a specific animal. And if you see that piques your interest, you want to make sure you get here very early, especially if it is a puppy, just because people, you know, puppies are highly desirable. So people, you know, stay overnight and come at 3 a.m. and wait in line for that specific puppy. Good thing for people to know is we do adopt on a first come, first served basis. That's why people are coming and waiting in line so early, because they want to be the first in line for the animal they're liking. Right now, we do not offer pre-adoption or online adoptions. Everything is done in person. We just want to make sure before we adopt an animal to you that it is a perfect fit.
Yeah. And what is your normal hours of operation?
Our normal hours right now are Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. to 7 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. But as of May 18th, our hours will be changing and will be Monday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay. And how many facilities does the Humane Society have in the Tampa Bay area?
An interesting fact is, even though we have the society name, all of the Humane Societies operate independently.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
As far as I know, we are the only one that's in Tampa. There's some other in different counties, but we are one.
Got it. And for people that might, not be in a position to adopt an animal, but still want to support the Humane Society, is there a way that they can donate money to what you guys do?
Absolutely. Again, as I mentioned, since we do all operate independently, we are not affiliated with the ASPCA or the Humane Society of the United States, so we do not receive funding from them. So we actually do rely purely on donations from our supporters. And how people can donate, it's really easy if you just go to our website, humanesocietytampa.org, and click on our donate button. And it's a one-page fill out, and it's really easy, and you're good to go.
That's fantastic. As we close out the segment here, Maria, is there any tips you'd recommend for people who are adopting an animal for the first time? Again, you mentioned yourself, you don't necessarily know the background of that animal. How should people approach reintroducing a stray or a left pet back into a home or a family situation?
So we do recommend, especially if you have another dog and you're looking to adopt a dog, we recommend that you bring the dog to our shelter, and we'll actually do a meet and greet with you, the dog that you're looking at, and your current dog, to make sure that everybody gets along. Something else that we do, we work with our dogs before they go up for adoption. We have a trainer in-house, and they work with the dogs to make sure, they are friendly towards people and they are sociable. And usually we know, since we do play groups between the dogs, if they're friendly with other dogs, we start to kind of learn things as the animal stays with us a little bit longer. So that's just a few ways.
Yeah. Oh, well, Maria, we really appreciate your time spending with us on a Friday, and certainly everything you guys do at your facility. As someone who has 2 rescue dogs myself, I really appreciate the mission of the Humane Society and certainly your contribution to the Tampa Bay area. So thank you so much. Before we let you go, one last time, where can people find you guys online?
We are at humanesocietytampa.org.
All right. Maria, thanks again. Have a happy and healthy Friday and enjoy your weekend. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And for everyone joining in, please stay tuned. After a quick break, we'll be back with Christian Junker, who is an accountant for productions, and to answer all of our accounting questions. Thanks.
My name is Joel Davis. My company is Commune & Co., a new coffee company in town. First of all, the coffee we source, and second of all, the brewing method. We work with some of the best roasters in the country who work directly with farmers. Number one, that gives farmers the best prices possible. Number two, that gives us the opportunity to oversee quality through every step of the process. And then we actually developed our own method of brewing iced coffee. We're in Florida. We drink it every day of the year. We wanted something bright, naturally sweet, and nuanced, the natural character of highlighting coffees as opposed to boring cold brew methods. We call it pressure brew. And then after we complete the brewing method, we put it back in kegs and nitro tap it. So we serve a nitro tapped, pressure brewed iced coffee, just like you'd get a Guinness or a stout or something like that off a nitro tap. So it's a beautiful way to serve a really delicious coffee. There's 4 or 5 wholesale partners that we have in town. Dat's Dough in South Tampa, Squeeze Juice Works, the cold pressed juice spot in Hyde Park, Mermaid Tavern in Seminole Heights, and then the local public house and provisions up in Dade City. They all serve our coffee every day of the week on tap. They do growler fills, and then our tricycle, the Commune Coffee Trike, is on the road 5 days a week at least between downtown and Ybor City. Days a week at least between downtown and Ybor City, and we do special events and fun stuff on the weekends with the trike as well. The best way to find us is our website, communeandco.com. You can follow us on Instagram or Twitter at communeandco, or on facebook.com/communeandcofl. We're always posting where we're at and events we have going on and fun stuff.
Hey everyone, we're back! Hey everyone, we're back! Today we're gonna make 3 types of ribs in a 3-part video. First episode, salt and pepper ribs. First we're going to need some ribs, duh, and make sure you give it a good wash to get rid of any old blood and bone fat. Next, we are going to soak the ribs in some Chinese wine? Wait, can I have some wine?
The alcohol burns once you cook it.
Oh. Prep time! Onions! Make sure you peel the first layer off before you start chopping. Garlic. Jalapenos. I dare you to eat one, Cloud.
If you get 100 likes, I'll take a bite of one.
Alright, bet. These are the main dry ingredients we will use. Salt, pepper, brown sugar, and then add a bit of spicy bacon mix. Using a deep pan or wok, pour a generous amount of oil for deep frying. We recommend using canola, vegetable, or corn oil. Please be very careful. Our deep fry station is outside of the house, and my dad is a trained professional. Hi. If your ribs are not completely under the oil, use a ladle and pour some on the areas, or you can cut the ribs into a size that can fit. Once the ribs is golden brown, take it out of the oil, place it on a resting rack and lightly season it immediately. Now for the toppings. Cook the garlic and sweat the jalapenos and onions.
Tyler's back in.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Beautiful Friday in Tampa Bay. We are joined by Kristen Junker, accountant. You're not a CPA, but you are an accountant.
I'm not a CPA.
Yeah.
I am an AFSP tax pro. I am a QuickBooks pro certified, and I've had a lot of experience, but no CPA.
Got it. I was just making sure I was giving you the right credentials. So, Kristen, how are you? Happy Friday.
I'm good. How are you?
I am delightful.
All is well.
I've got a drink right here, and it may or may not have some rum in it. So everything's going well for me.
It may or may not be a White Claw. We're not gonna
it is happy hour somewhere. And you need it because from what I hear, accountants and tax preparers, everyone associated with money is getting beat up right now, wondering where their stimulus checks are at.
There was a set of days back in April where I literally received 121 communications, emails, texts, or phone calls from my clients and from people who just know me from social media. Where is my money?
Yeah.
And so, what I want you guys to know is that your tax pro, your CPA, nobody can tell you exactly where your stimulus check is if the tool is not working for you and you're not having any luck. There is a Forbes article out there that gives you some hints that may or may not work. But the thing is that if you don't receive a check and you are eligible for a check and you just don't get it this time around, you will receive a tax credit equivalent to that check when you file next year's taxes. And that could cause you to have a refund.
Yeah.
So you may not see it today, but it will come down the line. Now, they did announce today that if you have not received a check or a direct deposit, that they want you to try to use and update that tool at irs.gov by May 13th, which is 5 days from now. So they're trying to speed that up. They want to make sure that people know that that tool is out there. But, that tool is the tool. We don't have a bat phone. So we only know what we know. We can help you try to figure it out, but also don't beat us up.
Yes. That you're our friend. We don't want you taking flack like that.
We're trying.
I know for me, I tried for weeks to get answers where my stimulus check was, and you go to that stupid website and all you get is ineligible. And I was like, what does this mean? I'm definitely eligible.
And now, the other thing I will remind people of, and I did write this down just so I can make sure I remember it, is that if your income AGI on your tax return for 2018 or 2019, if you filed it, if your AGI as a single person is 75,000 or higher, it will phase out. You may not get a check.
Yeah.
If you're a married filing joint return for 2018 or 2019, if you filed and it's more than 150,000, you might phase out. You might not get one. And if you're a head of household filing for 2018 or 2019, if you filed and it's more than 112,500, you may phase out. You may not get a check. So, if you're not sure why you're not getting a check and you're not getting any answers from the tools, check your most recent tax return. Make sure you didn't make too much.
Yeah.
And just remember, don't beat us up.
I definitely didn't make too much last year, but I did get my stimulus check finally, but it was weeks after most other people I'd heard had gotten it. So very frustrating. I did not take it out in my accountant though.
Now, I'm happy to report since the last time I talked to you guys, I have way more deposits coming in from the PPP. They're finally being processed. And my people are people that filed right when the doors open. So we're now several weeks into it, and we're just now finally starting to see the deposits.
Yeah, and for the PPP specifically, let's talk about that since you brought it up. How has that process been? Does it just depend on the bank you're dealing with, or has it been a pretty easy process across?
And what I've noticed is that the larger banks, the big banks, your Chases, your Bank of Americas, have seemed to have been a little bit slower than getting the community banks. The community banks have really seemed to be pushing their business clients along.
Yeah. Do you think that's because the volume of the work?
The SBA has also allocated money to where some money goes to the big banks and some money goes to the small banks, and the banks can only loan so much. And so, there's just a web of things going on here. But the money does seem to be coming through. And for people who are not getting loans, they are getting that communication that says, you've not been approved and this is why. Right. But, so it's been a month. It's coming along. It's moving.
And, for people that are taking advantage of the PPP, a lot of these banks, as you mentioned, are probably approaching their caps as far as available money as they can actually loan
I would
out
think
or
right now,
available. Yeah. And, you know, we were talking offline before this segment started that it's up in the air what any sort of phase 3 stimulus package might look like, especially with most states reopening.
Yeah.
You know, a cynic in me says, you know, hey, they're trying to get people back to work quicker, so they're not going to have to keep writing checks. But for
Right.
those that might not have applied yet for a PPE, would your advice be to jump on the stick right away and try to get things moving along? Like there's no more time to wait?
I mean, the thing is that they haven't said that the program is over. There's no additional funding, you know, and what is potentially any additional funding is really a fight in Congress and at the federal level right now, but nothing has been approved. Nothing is moving forward. If you've not been approved for a loan at this point in time, you can, you know, if you're working with a bank, you can try with another bank. You can try with your same bank. Definitely talk with your banker, see what they say. But you might want to consider putting your name in the hat for any future rounds. Just remember that every time you put your name in the hat for one of these loans, you are taking a credit inquiry.
Yeah.
So,
and is that
I
a
mean,
soft
you
hit
know,
or a hard hit?
well, the EIDL, if you were a sole proprietor or otherwise a single member, you took a personal credit hit.
Wow.
So I haven't seen the credit hitting with the PPP loans, but that's because I'm not affiliated with my clients' credit reports. I'm sure if they pulled their credit reports, they'll probably see some hard inquiries.
Yeah.
But, you know, let's remember that it is a loan and it may have a forgivable future, but remember,
wow,
it's not a freebie. You're going to pay, you're going to put the documents down there. You're going to take the credit hit. You know, you're going to have to document what you do with that loan. If you get the PPP loan, you don't just spend it on everything you have, and you especially don't spend it on debt that you've already acquired.
Yeah.
You use it for payroll, rent, and utilities, and you prove that, because when the loan comes due, if you want to forgive it and you can't show that you spent it on payroll, mortgage, and rent, that could be to your detriment. And that's just like the literal interpretation of this loan.
Yeah.
So good bookkeeping, good accounting.
Final question, and you may or may not be able to answer this, but as far as the clients you've been working with, I know there's two options for the PPE. You can either take it as a potentially forgivable loan if you're using it for things like payroll and keeping, you know, your employees, or you can take it as an actual loan.
And that is true, yes. Yeah, I mean, if you apply for a PPP loan and you generally use it for those things that are not forgivable under those circumstances, then you basically financed at 1% interest with the SBA, with the federal government.
Yeah.
So,
and are you finding clients taking one option over the other?
well, it kind of depends on their business structure. And I advise my clients from the get-go, if you don't run a formal W-2, 941, 940 payroll, I would avoid the PPP and try the EIDL. And then, of course, at that time, then the rules changed where, if you're self-employed, you might want to do that. But you had to be able to show that you had a payroll equivalent.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a real tough question to answer. I mean, it's still a web of things.
Yeah, no, absolutely fair. I was just wondering if you're hearing anything from your clients. So last question was to close out the segment. You know, tax day rolled right past us, and somehow we're almost halfway through May. It just seems like we're barreling forward. I know they extended the tax deadline filing date, but that's coming up pretty quick, probably quicker than I think most of us realize.
July 15th. And that if you are truly not ready to file by July 15th, then you can request an extension to October 15th at that time or prior to that time. You don't request an extension after the fact. But remember, if you still need an extension by the time July 15th comes around, it's an extension to file, not an extension to pay.
Right.
So if you have prepared your return as best you can and you're just not done and you have a balance due, remember, you should pay that balance due, or at least on that balance due on July 15th,
Right.
because otherwise you're going to get interest and penalties.
And that was
so an extension is not pay, it's file.
Right. That was the exact question I was asking, and you answered it. So I appreciate that. And with that, I think it's time for a quick happy hour break while I refresh my drink. And I'm sure you'd like one of yours as well.
And I'm a beer person, but I've made this conversion. So confessions of the accountant.
Well, speaking of accountant, before we end, where can people find you and where can they approach you for your services?
I share a lot of what I'm reading on Twitter at 71 Kristen Nader. I do have a Banalzic Facebook page. I am available on LinkedIn. I share, if I'm reading it, I share it on social media. Otherwise, it's my email address, which is dbabanalzic@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy your rest of your Friday, your happy hour.
Good evening. Nice to see you. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks, Kristen. And for everyone else watching, stay tuned. We've got another segment right after this.
And many more. It's easy to feel powerless when we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if we pause for a moment and let our eyes adjust, we can discover beauty hiding within the darkness. We find new ways to bring hope, to celebrate, and to connect. We discover that the tools we already have can solve novel challenges. We reimagine how we serve our community and protect our most vulnerable. We learn new meanings to the phrase daily bread and face-to-face and hero. We find the simplest ways to brighten the darkest days. And we discover that the light we're looking for was never at the end of the tunnel. That light, in fact, comes from each of us. So for as long as it takes us to reach the other side, keep looking for the light, because it's always there, just 6 short feet away.
At Medi Weight Loss, your wellness is our top priority. There's no better time to focus on your health than now. That's why we are open and we're here to help you. Our providers and staff are taking all the necessary precautions and following sanitation guidelines so you can feel confident coming in to see us. And if you're staying at home, we're also offering virtual appointments and curbside pickup. Get your individualized medical plan today at Medi Weight Loss.
And many more. It's easy to feel powerless when we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if we pause for a moment and let our eyes adjust, we can discover beauty hiding within the darkness. We find new ways to bring hope, to celebrate, and to connect. We discover that the tools we already have can solve novel challenges. We reimagine how we serve our community and protect our most vulnerable. We learn new meanings to the phrase daily bread and face-to-face and hero. We find the simplest ways to brighten the darkest days. And we discover that the light we're looking for was never at the end of the tunnel. That light, in fact, comes from each of us. So for as long as it takes us to reach the other side, keep looking for the light, because it's always there, just 6 short feet away. And many more. It's easy to feel powerless when we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us on another Friday edition of Tampa Live Stream. My name's Tyler Martinovich. For those who are tuning in, we've been joined all day by some great guests, and that's certainly true again this segment. We're lucky enough to be joined by Dr. Gretchen and Dr. Guzman from Medi Weight Loss. Hey, guys. Happy Friday.
Hi, happy Friday.
Thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate your time. This crisis certainly isn't behind us by any means, but it looks like we're returning to some form of normalcy. Obviously, it's not going to look quite the same as it did prior to COVID-19. But in the Tampa Bay area, St. Pete is largely reopened, although it reduced capacity. And I think you're seeing the same thing happen over in the Tampa Bay area. As we begin to restart our normal lives, whatever that's going to look like, going back to our offices, let's be honest, myself included, we probably haven't observed the healthiest eating diets over the last couple of weeks for obvious reasons. We haven't been exercising like we should have. What are some things and some tips that we can implement as we go back to normal living, again, whatever that might look like, to sort of re-energize our metabolisms, and get back to the same workout routine we might have been doing prior? And either of you can take that.
So one of the things that I'm very big on, and I know we've spoken about this before, is finding structure again in what we do and in our daily lives. We have to figure out what's going to work in our new norm, what's going to work for us as going back to being able to exercise and being able to make better choices. So until we kind of figure that out in our new norm, it's going to be extremely difficult because we tend to go back to a lot of bad habits and do a lot of different things that are just not conducive to a good metabolism and a good immune system when we are in moments of what we consider crisis. But once we start defining what our new norm is, I think it's a lot easier then to define what's going to help us and actually not work against us.
Yeah. And Dr. Guzman, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but as we're reopening gyms, do you think at this time, this stage, it's smart to go back to public gymnasiums? Or would you recommend still some more social distancing and finding ways to work out outside of the typical gym?
Right. So, there's a lot of debate going on, even amongst sort of the local level, at the state level, the national level, with just there are different nuances related to social distancing or physical distancing. And it really is contingent on the different plans, right, that have been executed at the state level. So gyms are very peculiar, especially given the notion of how they're set up. And I know for many people, it's ultimately making sure that you are following that social distancing. Some of these facilities do have policies and procedures that they will be following, but ultimately, it's going to be a matter of personal comfortability, right?
Yeah.
I would suggest that ultimately, personally, I would prefer to be outside and being more active by continuing some of the social distancing. And that's not to say that these facilities are not doing what they should in order to minimize exposure. But the reality is, with something such as COVID-19, coronavirus, that's a respiratory virus, exposure to the respiratory droplets is one of those things that really contingent on the environment, for instance, that someone's located in. That also may potentially impact the amount of exposure. And we really don't know if these folks out there aren't necessarily following all that. So again, it's going to be a matter of personal choice, and ultimately, making sure that you're following the precautions that are established out there.
Yeah. And a quick follow-up question. Let's say I'm a paranoid person. I'm not necessarily trusting, if I am going back to a gymnasium, that they're taking the proper cleaning precautions. Is there anything that I can do personally to better protect myself if I am going to put myself in that space? Would you recommend people still wear masks even when they're working out? Would you recommend them bringing their own cleaning products to wipe things down? What are some additional tips you can give?
Well, I know that in a gymnasium sort of setting, it's very hard to wear masks, especially if you're working out, if you're exasperated, you're sweating.
Yeah.
I think in this particular case, it would be best to follow the physical distancing part. Presumably, they have adequate ventilation system and also cleaning. Really making sure that perhaps you are bringing your own antibiotic material or other types of cleaning wipes and so forth, as well as hand sanitizers. Hopefully have that already there on site, but that's what I would recommend if you do choose. As far as wearing gloves, for instance, that's something that, this issue of cross-contamination, I think we've talked about that in the past. We're trying to really minimize any contact with our face. That's really one of the routes for infection. And we wouldn't necessarily want to recommend that in this particular case, but really hand hygiene is very crucial.
Right.
In this particular scenario as it relates to gymnasiums and whatnot.
Great tips. Dr. Gretchen, a question for you. As we've learned more about COVID-19 and other infectious diseases, does obesity directly relate to the severity of the symptoms that someone might have if they do contract a COVID-style or coronavirus-style disease or infection?
Yeah, there is a lot of new research out there where they observed in different parts, not only in the United States, but also they did some studies in Italy and in China. And they realized that the number one risk factor was age for complications of COVID, but the number one risk factor with patients under the age of 60 was obesity. So those patients whose body mass index, or BMI as we refer to it, is over 30, And those patients are less than 60 years old, had a much higher incidence of having complications once they started showing symptoms of COVID. So they did correctly link in multiple studies done in areas of the world that obesity plays a huge part in the complications associated with patients that are infected with COVID. And right now they don't have the reason, but they do hypothesize at this moment that it's due to the inflammation that occurs, that we know already that occurs, just in obesity.
And from what my understanding is that diabetes also contributes to a severity in COVID-19, and that's also correlated to obesity, correct?
So, yes, diabetes is correlated to obesity, but they took a look overall, and Dr. Weisman, you can jump in, and if you've read a little bit more of the recent, the ones that were done this week. But what it is they looked at, and they said that more than just diabetes by itself, because we know diabetes definitely also diminishes the immune system and affects it, and it also affects your ability to fight that disease if you have it. Obesity was higher as a risk factor than diabetes alone. So even those patients who had diabetes without being obese, not as at a higher risk like the obese people were.
Yeah, that's super
and
interesting.
I would agree with that as well. And just to chime in a little bit more on that, and Dr. Miguel is definitely correct as far as a major risk factor due to obesity. Some of the other hypotheses related to, in addition to the inflammatory sort of response that obesity and especially type 2 diabetes, as it kind of really also relates to what we call cardiometabolic risk factors that invariably also may lead to cardiovascular disease. Another hypothesis is really related to, for instance, lower lung volume and capacity for those individuals that are affected with obesity because of resistance in sort of the lung and their airways, and also just weaker respiratory muscles overall as well. So we can tell a lot of different what we call comorbid or other associated conditions with obesity, and type 2 diabetes being one of the ones that's the most strongly correlated. So it's ultimately really contributing to that inflammatory response, as well as ultimately also impacting the immune system. And that's really what researchers have identified. Also specific enzymes, for instance, that we know are associated with, for instance, fat tissue and how that secretes, and may impact the immune system down to macrophages, remember from biology. And that's basically what's saying is that the immune system goes into overdrive. And then researchers and also clinicians have identified what's known as cytokine storms, and that's essentially an overdrive of the immune system. And that's where you see people that are younger actually dying because of those complications, especially if they are affected with obesity and some of these other issues.
Right. And as we're closing out the segment here, unfortunately, these 10-minute segments go by very quickly. We are going back to work. We're exposing ourselves more. Now more than ever, I think it's important to adopt a healthy lifestyle. Are you guys seeing patients? Are you guys open for business? What's your operating hours, and where can people find more about what you guys are about?
Yes, absolutely. We are taking new patients. We are an essential business because we are part of the healthcare task force. So as an essential business, we are open. We are seeing patients in person and through telemed because, right, even though we can see patients in person and we have all the enhanced protocols, there are patients that are at a higher risk that prefer to do it through telemedicine. So we do also perform telemedicine, and you can go online and at www.mediweightloss.com, and you can just put in your area code or your zip code, and it'll show you. We have 3 different locations in the Tampa Bay area. We do free assessments, so free of charge and free of commitment. So patients can come in for a full assessment, and then we can introduce the program to them free of charge and free of commitment.
Wonderful. Dr. Gretchen, Dr. Guzman, thank you so much for joining us on another Friday. We really appreciate it. As we're working towards reopening, we hope you guys stay healthy and safe. And for those interested, please go to their website to learn more. And for those watching, stay tuned. We have another great guest coming up just after the break. Thank you. Thanks, doctors. Really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
After church. After church. Ladies and gentlemen, our first comedian tours all over this country. He comes from Tennessee, just like me. He's lived down here for a long time. Welcome, Bull, ladies and gentlemen. Bull, let him hear it.
Les McCurdy, everybody. That guy's a treat. How you guys doing tonight? Good? Well, the weather's been awful out, but the good news is we are here for a show tonight, right? That's right. The bad news is I am the stripper. You're going to have a bad night, Pumpkin. Right up front. Yes, I'm talking to you, sir. You, for this show, are Pumpkin. You're Pumpkin. That's who you are. She doesn't know. She doesn't know. I was out front. I was watching people as you guys were walking in. People were looking pissed when they first see me. But everybody tends to breathe easier once I get on stage, because once I'm up here, that's when you guys start to realize I am not here to repo a car. I know what I look like, right? And then the rest of you, I know what you guys are looking at. Some of you are looking at me going, that is possibly the pointiest head I've ever seen on a human being. That was a very quick laugh right down front. That was, take it in. This is my real head. It's not a stunt head that I strap on for shows. This is the real thing. Some of you just now figured it out. You know who didn't just figure it out? That guy right there. Look at him. He's been staring at me the entire time like I was the first light bulb in an Amish community. He's just like... He's almost a unicorn. Look at him. He looks like that fat pencil we used in kindergarten. Remember? Look at him. It's not a good-looking head. I know it's pointy at the top. It's flat on the sides. I have a split that runs up the back of my head. When I was born, the doctors thought I was coming out breech. I'll give some of you a second to figure out the word breech. That is butt first if you're from Kentucky. Doctor kept spinning me around for like a half hour. Eventually told my mom, he said, we got to pull him out. He is just all butt. Not a butt on that kid. I figured people are going to stare, so I give them something to stare at. This is what I like to do. I like to go to the beach, submerge to my eyebrows, and then just glide up on people. People lose their minds during Shark Week, let me tell you. I got baptized at a public beach. They put me underwater, converted 4 Muslims. Everyone's looking for Christ when there's a shark in the water all of a sudden, ain't they? So this is a very comfortable show. Nice packed out room, lots of people. Not an uncomfortable show at all. We've done some really uncomfortable shows over the years. A while back, I had to perform for an audience of 2 people sitting at the front table. That was it, 2 people, yeah, and they were twins, so it was one face. That's uncomfortable. Most uncomfortable show I ever have to do every year, I perform in Land O'Lakes at a place called Caliente. Anybody here familiar with Caliente? Some of you familiar with it? For those of you who don't know, it's a nudist resort in Land O'Lakes, Florida. So if you're picturing it being sexy, just remind yourself it's naked people surrounded by trailer parks. That's as sexy as it gets. They claim it's a 5-star resort.
Welcome back, everybody. Again, my name is Tyler Martinowicz, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County. Thank you guys for joining us in another live stream, Tampa Bay. This is our 5th or 6th, I think, live stream we've done. So we appreciate you guys following us along through this entire COVID crisis. But it looks like we're coming towards the end of the dire tunnel that we've been slowly chugging through. There is light we're starting to see. Tampa Bay itself is starting to reopen. Restrictions are slowly coming down. We're being able to socialize a little more, though we're certainly appreciative of everyone that's still respecting some social distancing. But we've been joined by everyone from accountants to lawyers to doctors, and we thought we'd lighten things up a little bit, and we're lucky enough to be joined this segment by comedian Bull Oshie. Bull, how are you, buddy?
I am doing well. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Even though we're social distancing through the computer here, we still appreciate your time. Before we get into any questions here, first thing, how are you doing through this crisis? How has things been?
Well, I mean, just like everybody else, it's awful, but it does no good to complain about it. I'm one of the fortunate comics that I have a day job as well. I keep a day job to the point where I'm still able to bring in a paycheck. A lot of my friends in comedy have been really unfortunate that comedy is all that they have, and I don't even think there's a space on unemployment forms for comics to fill out. So I really have no idea how a lot of the comics are surviving and getting through without having something to fall back on. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, I feel your pain on that one. People in the entertainment industry at large are all going through the same thing. It's like, what do we actually apply for? We're gig workers. How do we take advantage of these stimuluses? And the reality is it's difficult, even in the best of times. And certainly for those in Florida, they've discovered the unemployment route is a bit of a train wreck, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But let's talk a little bit about comedy. Have you still been able to do your comedy bits through a different venue, or are you doing anything online, streaming, or is this just sort of been a dead time for everybody?
It's been a dead time. I've heard that there are some. I believe that there is the comedy club in Port Charlotte, Vasani's. I think they are playing around with an idea, much like a drive-in movie theater. They have a stage set up out on their property, I believe, and they're having comics perform on stage to everybody sitting in their cars. So I know that some stuff like that's going around. I performed one show during the beginning of all of this, where people started the social distance, and it was at the Niagara Tap in Largo. It was just a little bar show. It was a great show, but you could clearly tell that people were starting to pull away, and the crowd was leaner than usual, and that's always been a good room for me, but you could tell that it was a little bit leaner and people were a little scared to come out.
Yeah. Have you done any comedic writing over the course of this quarantine? Really sort of looking at the situation and parsing it and finding the funny bits, that if there is any funny bits to be had about COVID-19?
Everybody's going to have their little bits on it. Everybody's going to be relating it to house arrest from what, I can imagine. But I think in the very beginning, I think that a lot of audiences are going to be looking to get away from this, just like with political material.
Yeah.
A lot of times you do political material in front of an audience and they shut down. People are tired of seeing this stuff on TV. I tell you, you cannot turn on your TV. I turn on my TV, automatically it comes on to Bay News 9. COVID is the very first thing you hear. You can never turn on the TV and you're not hearing COVID. So I think people are going to want to escape from this. They're not going to want to hear it. I think that, it's not been a popular thought, but I had a thought, and a lot of comics don't agree with me. I think that a lot of comics at my level are even going to have trouble getting back to work and doing comedy, because this has hit everybody on such a level that I think your upper echelon comics, your more famous comics, they're going to be looking to make money anywhere they can, and they're going to be hitting the clubs, and they're going to be hitting the areas that they don't usually go to. And I think I'm thinking it's probably going to be 3-4 years before I get to see regular stage time again.
Wow, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, with things changing, people are going to be taking different routes just to get a paycheck, whatever that might look like.
Sure, sure. I would. I'll clean toilets at a comedy club if I got to get back in.
Yeah, no, believe me, any silver lining you can find, and if that means a paycheck, throwing out garbage, you take it. I got a question from Pete. Let's throw it over to my co-host here, Pete.
Hey, Bull. Hopefully you can hear me from across the building. All great information, man. But now I'd like to turn it and make it something a little bit more fun. And do you have any jokes that you've been preparing or anything in your head? I know it's too soon to make a COVID-19 joke, but they even made jokes during the Great Depression in 1930. I read a lot of them over the last couple of years, so I'm sure you have something up your sleeve. We'd love to hear it, just have a little bit of humor in our life while we wait for our PPP, our SBA, and every other check that the government's promising us.
He sounds like he's got a bullhorn inside of a garbage can.
You know what? You were close to exactly how we're set up right now. We got a tin can and a string, and that's about what we're doing.
That's what it sounded like. It sounded like he's wanting me to do my material, and I just can't. I can't do my material on an interview show. I actually got kicked off of a radio show because I refuse to do material. It doesn't play right. It doesn't. I don't know. You guys have the video of me over there, right?
Yeah, no, we do. That's why we don't take questions from the audience. It shouldn't have cut to Pete. Sorry.
That's okay.
No, let's.
That's okay. And I will tell you, a lot of comics will give into it and they will do it, but they always regret it afterwards because it just doesn't play right. You know, it doesn't come out right. A lot of times comics have trouble with like smaller audiences. I'll do a small audience. I had to perform in front of an audience of 2 people, and they were twins, so it was one face that I had to perform in front of for that entire show. See, that was actually one of my bits, and didn't even crack a smile.
I didn't.
but it's a true. It was a true story. I had to perform in front of 2 people. They were twins, one face through the entire show, and a lot of comics won't do that because laughing is very personal for people. They feel vulnerable. And if a lot of times you get an audience of 3, 4, 5 people won't laugh. They don't like the way their teeth look, or they think they laugh funny, and they won't show a lot of emotion. So that's the trenches for a lot of comics. If you can get into an audience of 4 or 5 people and make them laugh, then doing a crowd of I've performed in front of 1,000 people. That's simple. That's the easy stuff.
Yeah. So
2 to 4 people is the trenches.
No, I get it. Let's turn to something else then. What have you been doing to find your own humor during this time? Is there any TV series or comics you've been checking out? What have you been watching?
I love a lot of reality TV. Right now, it's the weirdest thing. I'm 48 years old and I've resorted to TV land. I've been watching a lot of Gunsmoke and Bonanza and the Andy Griffith Show, but I love reality shows. I love cooking shows. I love UFC. I mentioned quite a bit of that when I'm on stage. I do like to talk to the audience. I love talking about the absolute dumpster fire that is Swamp People. I just love a TV show where people are speaking English, but they still need subtitles. I absolutely love it.
That's a perfect guilty pleasure.
Yeah. Typically what I do for comedy is once you settle down in your life, you don't tend to find as much funny anymore. And I tell people, just take yourself out of your comfort zone. If you're uncomfortable at a country bar, you go to a country bar because that's where you're going to find the funny. I'm not going to find the funny. I love country music. But, if I've got a friend that's into hip hop, I take him to a country bar. He's going to find all the funny there. If you're uncomfortable going to a gay nightclub, go to a gay nightclub. Go wherever you're uncomfortable. That's where you're going to find the funny. That's typically what I do, but right now everything is shut down.
I was going to say that was a great tip, except I can't go anywhere. But
I can't hang out with Gene over at the gay nightclub anymore. So
Gene's nodding enthusiastically over there. Just off screen. So with that, Bull, that was our tight 10. We've got no more time. Really appreciate you spending some time with us, though. Have a safe and happy, healthy rest of the day, and enjoy your weekend, bud. Appreciate you joining us.
We do this again. I'll prepare a small little piece that I'll be able to say.
I appreciate it, Bull. Sorry to put you on the spot, but you enjoy your weekend, man.
All right.
See ya.
You too. Bye.
And many more. It's easy to feel powerless when we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if we pause for a moment and let our eyes adjust, we can discover beauty hiding within the darkness. We find new ways to bring hope, to celebrate, and to connect. We discover that the tools we already have can solve novel challenges. We reimagine how we serve our community and protect our most vulnerable. We learn new meanings to the phrase daily bread and face-to-face and hero. We find the simplest ways to brighten the darkest days. And we discover that the light we're looking for was never at the end of the tunnel. That light, in fact, comes from each of us. So for as long as it takes us to reach the other side, keep looking for the light, because it's always there, just 6 short feet away.
Safety on set. One audio up.
Welcome back, everybody. Once again, I'm Tyler Martin-Olich, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County, joining you live from our studios here at 211 Meridian. Beautiful day in Tampa Bay. We're glad you guys are joining us. This segment, we're lucky enough to be joined by filmmaker, documentarian Todd Weisman. Todd, how are you, buddy? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate the camera in the background. Good set design. We have not had the best backgrounds for some of our call-in people today. So
this is the spotting scope back here. If you're looking at, oh, there's a
yeah. I was thinking, I was squinting my eyes, but it looked right. So give us a quick Wikipedia entry of who you are and your background.
Sure. My name's Todd. I am a Tampa native. Grew up in Tampa my whole life. Shipped away to film school up in New York to NYU after graduating Freedom High School 2005. Also did 2 years at Blake, the first 2 years. So shout out to both of those great schools. Came up here, started a production company right out of college. We've been in business for 11 years. The early days saw us, doing a lot of music videos and more traditional broadcast spots. And then over the years, we leaned into a kind of more of a niche business, popping up local crews all around the world. We oversee a little over 100 shoots a month at Hayden 5. And then we have an originals department where we do film and TV. And I'm really excited to be bringing my directorial feature to Tampa in about a month.
Yeah, well, we're super appreciative for that. I was saying offline before we broke back in with the segment that you're going to be, if everything works out right, one of the first filmmakers to actually be able to come back and shoot in Florida as we're reopening, which I'm super grateful for. What made you want to return to Florida to film, other than being a Tampa native?
Yeah, I've always hoped that my first movie would be made in Tampa as a director, and so I've had that in the back of my mind. But actually, creatively, it works out really well for the project, which the movie's called Dreams of John. Once it's out, it'll all make sense. Tampa is a character in the film, like it has been for my whole life. So I'm really interested in seeing what we can, do together, and I'm excited to work with the local team down there.
Yeah, we have a really strong commercial market, and certainly during this time, people have found themselves without a lot of work. So anyone that can bring a project to the Tampa Bay area, just Florida at large, I think any film commissioner would say we're super grateful for that. But let's talk, not to get too serious here, but since you are in New York and sort of the epicenter of where all this stuff's happening, how has it been as a production company owner through this time? Have you seen just a catastrophic loss in business, or have you seen people motoring on? I mean, what has it been like?
Yeah, we were absolutely, when everything, just hit the brakes, we saw all of our productions just fall off the map and go away. I have a large full-time staff here, high overhead, big office, and we were very, very scared. We were really fortunate to come up with an innovation that allowed us to keep shooting. It's called drop kits, and the way it works is we lean on our local vendors in cities across the United States, across the world, to assemble these drop kits for us, which are carts with a 4K camera, directional light, directional mics, lav mics. You can check it out on the Hayden 5 website. We've done well over 100 drop kit deployments since this began. We're able to produce some high profile spots, as well as just work with cool directors that we really admire. And it's been used in all sorts of ways, from everything from news networks all the way down to like fitness and food content. So luckily we were able to pivot really quickly and lean into these drop kits.
That's really cool. Almost like I don't want to be too reductive, like a Uber film kit, like here you go. What has it been like, integrating that into your business model? Have you found people easily adapting to that idea, or is this something so fresh and out of the box they're kind of lost in what you're trying to do?
Yeah, well, our business model leans on local crews. So under normal circumstances, we're having local crews pop up and shoot, multi-city interview content, multi-city documentary branded stuff. So drop kits was a natural progression for us. Obviously, we had to figure out how to get it all onto a cart, how to do it safely. They're completely contactless, so our drop kit tech brings it to the front door of wherever it's going to be deployed, sanitizes it, and walks away. At that point, when it gets carted in, there's a live view. I'm on a drop kit right now. I can show you, I can turn on the live camera settings. We lean on cameras like this with facial detection, autofocus, and we were able to do it with our local teams. And I love working with local crews. I think there's no reason in 2020 that you need to pack up every single crew member, even that you love and love working with, and fly them to a new city when there's so much talent all around the United States and the world.
No, that's fantastic. I've always said if you need something mobilized and done, apart from the military, no one can get things done better than a film crew. I mean, it's just sort of built into our DNA. Logistics is paramount in everything we do.
Absolutely.
So as we're coming towards the end of the segment, we have about 5 minutes left. What are some of the things you're just looking forward to, not necessarily business-wise, but on a personal level, just getting back and returning to? I mean, is there a favorite restaurant or a food you've just been craving and haven't had access to? Like, what are you dreaming of right now?
Man, I'm a total coffee addict. I want to go to a good coffee shop and have a great cup of coffee. I know Tampa and Ybor in particular has just great Armature Works. All those places have great coffee. So when I'm down there, assuming the world starts to open back up in a month or so, that'll be my first stop. That and like greasy food. Like I want fast food. I like fast food.
Yeah.
And I can't get it.
I'm sitting here with my Wendy's because I'm a healthy person, as you can clearly see. So as we're winding down, tell us a little bit about what you've had to do as far as prep for this new project you're doing. Understanding, obviously, you've got some adaptability already with what you're doing with the drop kits. But what has it been like grappling with the idea of not being able to have larger crews or some of the amenities you might have been able to rely upon in the past?
For sure. I think we will. I'm working with Pete and Custom Built and his team out of Tampa, and I'm really excited about that. I think safety is paramount for us. So everything we've considered has had to be adapted to be, not such a heavy lift in terms of how many crew we can have on site. We want to stagger the team. So we'll send art department ahead, prep, they'll leave, we'll come in, we'll shoot, and so forth. So this will be a socially distanced production. I imagine there will be more safety precautions in terms of just, sanitizing things and wearing masks and so forth. But, it's certainly, I think these types of problems breed creative solutions. So I think we'll be looking forward to seeing how we can solve them.
Yeah, it's interesting, going back to what I was saying about if you need something done, get the military or the film business to do it. Looking at some of the other industries and their responses to how to deal with, large gatherings of people. It's interesting that if you look back at the news last couple of weeks, it has been the film industry that has been leading the discussion as far as how to make spaces safe. And I think that's something that everyone in the film business should be very proud of. Whether you're union or non-union or your studio, doesn't matter. It seems like everyone has had this giant brain trust come together to think through what we need to do to make sure everyone's safe, because there's very few businesses that have as much of a family atmosphere, I think, as a film set does. We really care about everyone that works with us on a set. So like you said, safety is paramount. So as we wind down the segment here, we got about a minute and a half left. What is just some words of advice you can give to other filmmakers that are looking to open their doors in the next couple of days or weeks or whatever it might be? What should they be doing to think through the process and prepare for when they can get back out there and film again?
For sure. If you hear a loud noise, there's something going on outside here in Brooklyn. I'm not sure what.
It's right. Your audio actually sounds fantastic. So.
Okay. When we had to pivot and do the drop kits thing, and the same with how we were going to adapt this film's production, I started looking at success stories from the Great Depression. And one story that really jumped out at me was P&G, the holdings company, decided that they were going to double down and sell as much soap as they could. And because it's something that everybody needs every day.
Yeah.
And what they did, soap operas were created during that time in order to sell soap. That got the wheels turning for me. I think, as we think about production companies, how we execute creative ideas and provide content to people during tough times, we're just going to have to think a little bit outside of the box. And that's what I think we're all really good at. I think we're going to see really cool stuff come out of this in the coming months and years.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, with that, we got to close out the segment. Thank you so much, Todd, for joining us. I promise you there'll be a cafe con leche waiting for you when you arrive. We'll make sure you get your coffee fixed while you're here in Tampa. And with that, we are closing out for another segment. Tune in after the break. We have film legend Bob Layton, the creator of Iron Man, who will be joining us. We called him a special favor for this one. But Todd, thank you again for joining us. Have a great weekend and a great rest of your day, bud. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody. production design behind you. Very nicely done. Yeah. No, I wouldn't recognize you without them. Oh man, it's been rough. I had to fire my staff. We're basically closed down, but I'm slowly opening up. But it's not going to be the same. No, you're fucking right. I have no idea what it's going to look like. It's so strange. Hold on. All right. No, Bob, I think we're actually ready to break back in. Sorry, you caught us at the end of the segment. So I'll introduce you, and then we'll just run into questions, all right? It's like 10-minute segment. We'll keep it cool. All right? I look fat, but thanks. Welcome back, everybody. Again, my name is Tyler Martinovich, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County. Thank you for joining us on another beautiful day in Tampa Bay. I am lucky enough to be joined by my very, very dear friend, Bob Layton. You might know him from a little thing called Iron Man, but so much more. He is a comic legend, but also a legendary writer and creator. And we are so lucky, one, to be able to call him my friend, but two, just having him in the Bay Area. Bobby, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, Tyler. Wow, do that all again. That made me feel great.
That's all right. I've been thinking about what I'm going to say to you next time I see you for Taco Wednesday. We do Taco Wednesday instead of Taco Tuesday.
I miss Taco Wednesday.
I know, but we're in a different world right now. Before we get to this whole COVID stuff, you have a pretty interesting story because when this all broke, you were in Dubai. Far away from your comfort zone. So give us the story of how you actually got back to the United States when the world collapsed around you.
Well, as you know, I went over there for a month. I was there because the people who were financing my film company, Box Monkey Pictures, Michelle Grant and I, who was my business partner, we went over there at the 1st of March. We were attending the Middle East Film and Comic Con. And then we were supposed to do the opening movie premiere of Bloodshot. Sony asked me to do the Middle Eastern premiere of Bloodshot. I even had I don't know if you saw the thing, I had a white tux made with the Nehru jacket.
I saw it with the Bloodshot signature.
Bloodshot symbol on it, yeah. Which was really hilarious because the film opened on Friday, the premiere was Wednesday rather, and then the theaters all closed on Thursday. It had a one-day premiere. The movie ran for 1 day in the Middle East. Then what happened was I was just staying on because I was doing business over there. We're talking to investors and stuff like that because I'm making my next film with Dubai money and hopefully making it there. Their Studio City there is amazing. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of it.
They spared no expense.
Facebook,
Yeah.
Though. I mean, they even have a water tank there. It's crazy,
In the middle of a desert, which
But nobody makes movies there because they don't have much of an incentive because they why should they? They have all the money in the world, right? But I'm trying to fix that. So Michelle and I were working on it. Anyway, so my business partner over there is a member of the royal family, and he tells me on Wednesday night that they are going to close their borders on Friday. and originally they had me going out through Istanbul, Turkey, which had already getting ready to close its borders on the return ticket. So I had to scramble. I found a one-way ticket to Orlando, Florida on Air Emirates and flew back here just before the total lockdown happened, But Europe was shut down at that point. So I was lucky to get one of the few flights out. And so I've been pretty much cooped up here ever since, other than my little medical thing.
No, that's crazy. So I was a terrible host introducing you. Not only are you, a legendary comic creator, associated with Marvel, but you're also one of the founding principals of Valiant, which ultimately Bloodshot, which that's what I'm getting to. So Valiant signed a deal with Sony to bring to life a couple of the properties. I think that
well, actually, the whole DMG moved the whole deal over to Paramount.
Okay, to Paramount now.
So Bloodshot's the one and only, I think, property that's still at Sony.
Got it. And you've seen several of your characters come to life. What was it like seeing Bloodshot come to life? No commentary in the movie, but just the idea of that comic coming on.
I'm not going to give any reviews here, but it was definitely interesting. You got to remember that when I came up with the concept of Bloodshot, it was 1992. Yeah. Back then, nanites were theoretical. So, it was a really cool way to give somebody Wolverine-like powers or whatever, the healing and all that kind of stuff without, being bitten by a radioactive water buffalo or something. To me, it was a more plausible way to create a superhero. I think visually they did an amazing job. And as you know, I was on the set for it.
Yeah, of course,
I was over in South Africa when they were shooting, so I got a chance to be there firsthand, which was really nice. That's something I really haven't done since I was on the set of Iron Man 2, so it's been a while since I was invited on the set, which shows you, that obviously I am I have a problem creator.
Yes.
They have never invited me back to be on the set, so what can I tell you?
So, Vin Diesel was cast as Bloodshot in the newest iteration that was done by Sony. In your perfect world, if you had to cast that role again, no offense to Vin Diesel, when I saw the movie, I actually think he's pretty good in the role. Who would have been your dream casting for Bloodshot?
Oh, well, I haven't really given it. You wait a minute. First of all, Tyler, are you looking at me? Can you look at me eye to eye?
Well, I'm sort of. There's a camera off screen, but I'm looking. Yes.
Yeah, but you know my philosophy about actors, right?
I do.
Yeah. My whole philosophy is as long as they're not a piece of driftwood, propped up in a corner somewhere, I'm fine. Okay. I've been lucky. I've had Robert Downey Jr. I've had, I'm talking guys with Academy Awards.
Yeah.
Don Cheadle played characters I co-created. Paul Rudd. Mary Elizabeth Winstead. So I've been pretty lucky in that regard. And let me tell you something. As big as Vin Diesel's profile is here in America, they are crazy about him in the Middle East. Oh my God. They were just nuts about it.
Yeah, he's absolutely an international superstar.
Even with my own films, you've been around when I was writing movies. I don't ever think about actors.
Yeah.
I don't really think or write specifically for a person.
In my own personal philosophy, an actor can elevate the words on a page, but if the words are terrible, there's no matter who you cast, it's still going to suck.
Right. So, but my whole point is I don't really put a face to them when I'm writing them. So, as far as Bloodshot goes, I understand because I understand how Hollywood works.
Yeah.
And Vin Diesel, there he is. Also, with Bloodshot's powers, part of it is he can actually change his appearance. So it's quite possible that if they do a second movie, they could change actors.
Right.
I think Sebastian Stan would be really good.
Oh, actually, now that you said that, that would have been a perfect casting. Yeah. I can totally see that.
He's that broody, moody,
kind
of guy, the dark eyes, And
but it's got the chiseled features still. Yeah, no.
If you pale skinned him, if you because if you turned him ashen gray, I think you'd be really scary looking.
Yeah. No, totally.
And he's a good action actor. He's got chops too. So that's probably if I would
absolutely.
choose somebody.
So we're coming down to the last 3 minutes of this quick little 10-minute segment.
I know you want to talk about my thing in the jar.
Your thing in a jar. Do we have time? Yes.
Frank said I should show it to you.
Let's see your thing in a jar. So
this was removed from my leg last week.
Yeah. So Bob had a surgery last week that was 40, 60 years in the making. However long.
It's a piece of bicycle chain that was lodged in my leg since I was 11 years old. And it formed a little cyst, which never bothered me. And my dermatologist years ago said, leave it alone. It's not bugging you, leave it alone. Well, in October, I scraped it against the pool getting out. I was kind of lifting myself out of the pool, and I scraped it. And apparently, I ruptured the cyst sac, so my body has been attacking that piece of metal. We didn't know the metal was there. What's really funny is I went to the doctor, and he was shooting me full of steroids in the thing because it was really inflamed. And on the third shot, it went clink. And he's like Armenian. He goes, I think there is an object in there. He goes, there's a piece of metal in there. So they went and took an X-ray, and sure enough, it's a piece of the bike chain that was been broken off and in my leg for 55 years.
That is amazing. And what you have your mother to blame, right? Because she was the one that was like, it's fine.
She would not only does she want me to keep it, but she thinks I should get a hold of Ripley or something.
We can get that bronze for you in a nice little necklace. It'll be perfect.
Yeah.
So
looks like we're not going to be doing anything until fall, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different world altogether. But you still have plenty of time now to watch all the Asian soap operas and dramas that you've been consuming.
Oh my God, I love Crash Landing on You. Oh my God, have you seen that?
I have not. That's what I was going to ask. What should people watch right now?
It's one of the best sitcoms I've seen in years. It's Korean, and it's Lee Jin-sung, who I think is one of the best actresses working in film today. She's incredibly versatile, but you can't help but love her. It's absolutely. I watched that, and I watched Upload, which is absolutely brilliant.
I think you could be the highest consumer of Korean-made entertainment outside of actual Koreans.
Well, I know what it is because I've seen every American movie. As much as I fly, I have seen every film ever made, probably by now.
What makes the Korean movies or the Korean soap operas and movies and comedies so much better or just more enjoyable?
Well, because they're kind of a throwback. They kind of do stuff the way we used to do them. There's a lot of romance, which we don't do romantic comedies anymore. And on TV, it's always like it's schleppy families. It's like slobbing dads and whiny moms and rotten kids. It's never there's never something about love and romance.
Right, you don't have like the Paul Reiser style like comedies anymore. Yeah,
Bad About You. Yeah, I mean they quit making stuff like that. And Koreans still make them, and make them quite well, actually. And they have an amazing, production values on their movies and on their television shows. It's except that every one of them has Subway sandwich in there.
You got to pay the bill somehow.
As product placement. Every soap we watch, they're always eating at a Subway sandwich. All that great Korean food, amazing Korean food, and they're eating Subway sandwich.
Yeah. No accounting for taste. All right. And with that note, we've got to close out the segment. Bobby, thank you so much for joining us, buddy.
Well, we should actually talk sometime as friends.
We should. And you definitely owe me some tacos the minute we can get back into the restaurant. Yeah, I'll cash in on that bill. But yeah, no, I'll check with you later. But thanks again for tuning in, buddy. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time, man. I know you're busy.
Hey, listen, it's always a pleasure, man. Just stay safe.
All right. I love you, buddy. See ya. And with that, guys, we'll be back right after the break with DJ Fresh to have a fresh segment of music to end the day. We appreciate everyone following along. Thanks, everybody.
Time to focus on your health? Then now. That's why we are open and we're here to help you. Our providers and staff are taking all the necessary precautions and following sanitation guidelines so you can feel confident coming in to see us. And if you're staying at home, we're also offering virtual appointments and curbside pickup. Get your individualized medical plan today at Medi Weight Loss.
Hi, I'm Rusty Wallace.
And I'm Johnny Bench.
And we're no strangers to big time pain.
Which is why we trust Blue Emu's pain relief products.
I use it every day to keep me on the move because winning never gets old.
Blue Emu pain relief products, non-greasy, deep penetrating formula gets down deep into your muscles and joints to do its magic.
And speaking of magic,
Blue Emu, maximum pain relief, the official pain relief cream of NASCAR.
We are stronger together in the warm air and Gulf breezes, by the sparkling water as the sun slowly sets, where pirates shout ahoy and treasure awaits, where gentle manatees swim past timeless minarets, with adventures to discover in historic districts, with diversity and charm, in our community by the bay, to make memories beyond measure when you return, because we are all stronger together, where hope always shines in the hip urban heart of Florida's Gulf Coast beats. We will be ready for you in Tampa Bay, Florida's most resilient destination.
At Medi Weight Loss, your health and wellness is our top priority. We're now offering virtual tools to help keep you safe and on track with your weight loss goals. Focus on your health and lose weight with our individualized medical plans. Call for a free virtual assessment. Medi Weight Loss.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us again for another live stream. Again, my name is Daniel Martinovich, Film Commissioner for Hillsborough County. And we wanted to end the segment today with something a little different, a little fun. And we're lucky enough to be joined by DJ Fresh, Tampa's favorite DJ. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good, brother. How you doing, man? Happy Friday. Happy Fresh Friday.
Happy Fresh Friday indeed, and I've got a little rum in this cup right here, so I'm enjoying a happy hour. There we go. A little Sunshine City.
I'm always supporting local right here from Green Bench Brewery in downtown St. Pete. So a little Sunshine City pale ale. So cheers everybody.
Cheers to you. That is the perfect segue. We want to support the locals. I know you've been doing a ton to help support locals, particularly feeding Tampa Bay. Talk a little about what the experience was last time we talked to you. I think you were doing a live session out by the beach. Or no, where was it? It was at the Hotel Godfrey, right?
Yeah, Godfrey at Water, that nice little pool area where they have all the pool parties and stuff over the weekend. But yeah, I'm just, you have to adapt when something like this happens. And, you lean on your network of people that you've built, your business on and built your business with, and just team up and say, hey, who's doing what? How can I help? What can I do? I wanted to keep spreading positivity, being a DJ and an entertainer and a host. Everybody looks, to you to, kind of be that power of positivity. You're always providing them with the vibes to set the mood, allow them just to kind of let loose on the dance floor. So, that was just kind of our way of just wanting to give back and do something kind of unique and different. We went and surprised all the hospital staff at Tampa General Hospital a couple weeks ago too, during a 6 a.m. Shift change, and about 3,000 of their healthcare workers. So that was really super fun. They had a great time. So yeah, just keeping the ball rolling and obviously being safe and staying within the guidelines and everything like that. But now with everything starting to kind of open up a little bit, I think it's going to be really great. And it's giving us light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, that we're getting one step closer to get back to normal.
Well, that's awesome. So one more question, then we'll get to the music. Part of a DJ's job is making sure the crowd is engaged and moving. How do you stay up on the most current music? I mean, do you just listen to tunes all day long to know what's popular and happening out there, or are you reaching back into your past?
Yeah, honestly, so last night was the first night, and I hate to say this because so many guys are like, oh, I look for music every day, or I'm this, I'm that. Like, I'm not like that. Like, I need my time to detox. I'm a family man too, so I've got a wife and 2 kids, and I've also been thrown into the whole, homeschooling thing. So now I'm a 4th grade teacher and a 1st grade teacher on top of, all the other stuff I have going on. So honestly, no, man. Yesterday and this morning, I woke up, I said, I want to get on some new music. The crazy part is there hasn't been that much new music that's at least, good and stuff like that for people to vibe to. So it was a good opportunity for me to go back and revisit a lot of the classics, 70s, disco, funk, old school hip hop stuff to, old school house music and 90s pop and cool, fun stuff like that. So, the best thing about, being a DJ is that there's no way you have every single song on the planet. There's no way you've heard of every song. So I've been doing this 20 years, and there's always a gem or a cool remix of maybe Fleetwood Mac or, Rolling Stones or something like that I can find that I can, just throw in there and then throw everybody for a loop, whether you're watching virtually and we're connecting virtually, or whether, you're with me live at an event and we're there in person dancing and going crazy. So, but yeah, it's cool because you get to express your creativity and watch the people move, like I said, whether it be virtually or in person soon, hopefully soon.
Well, with that, we appreciate it, buddy. DJ Fresh coming to us live via Skype here, or I think Google Meeting, whatever. Give us some tunes to vibe to, man. Bring us home for this Friday.
Now, before I play, I'm going to rock out for a little bit of time, but I want you guys to grab your drinks with me. Let's everybody cheers. It's always 5 o'clock somewhere, so let's have a good time. Come on.
All right, well, cheers to that.
Salud. How's that volume? You guys good?
Crank it, buddy. Yeah, there we go.
How's that? There we go. I like a little bit of everything for everybody. You can't go wrong with a little Cool in the Gang on a Friday.
No, I shouldn't be.
Y'all vibing with me out there? Let's go. Bring him out, bring him out, bring him out, bring him out. Let's go. Come on, toast it up. Toast it up. Here we go. Come alive from the VIP herd. I want to know if we got any requests out there. You guys want to hear anything? Let me know. Tampa Bay, bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out. All right, I want to see if y'all know this one. Y'all with me? Hey, Pete. Yo, Pete. Let's see if y'all know this one. Come on. Chill.